is this the end of it? And we're back again. It's the Inside Newfoundland Show. And I'm your crazy host, Jay Frost, according to the picture. Crazy, crazy. And we're back again. I'm really thirsty.
Grab some tea?
What?
Coffee, water, milk?
I don't know what's going on.
Milk will do.
It's raining right now inside of my head. No, I'm just kidding. That was awesome tunes, man. I had a question to ask you first before we get to
how to
some
pronounce
awesome
the name of the
information.
album?
No, not at all. Nothing to do with that. Something to do with the graphic design on your album, actually.
Okay.
I see right here. It looks like that the letters are on the window.
Right.
Man, that's keen. Were they actually on the window?
No, they weren't. They were actually Colin Peddle took the shot, and then Jeremy, he's in the middle of the picture. He's my bassist. He put that on with Photoshop or some sort.
That's what. But man, he did a good job, I must say, because it looks like it's on the window behind you guys.
Yeah, well,
like
that was the point. We're, we're busking there, and somehow that company had the titles of all the songs of the album on the window.
Wicked. Wicked. Wow. And okay, so we're gonna listen to more of that.
Sure.
Now we're gonna concentrate on some visuals. I want you to kind of set the scene for us visually. You walk up to the Confederation building, and what?
It's quite the eerie day. I'm Jennifer McCreath's, and I arrived about 10 minutes before the event started, and I was amazed to see so many people standing outside in a cold, cloudy, drizzly day. Hundreds of people, 100 at least. Some people had pots and pans, some people had signs, some people were dressed up in a variety of strange Halloween costumes. Pretty much every major media outlet in the city was there.
Wow.
So this is serious business we're talking about.
And now, we set the scene. A lot of people, a lot of support, media everywhere. And so this is in support of?
It's actually, I guess, lack of support for the finalization of Bill 29, an act to amend the Access to Information and Protection of Privacy Act in our provincial legislature.
And now, what that means in a nutshell is this will protect the right of the provincial government to not show anyone of the public what they do with our tax funds, or what they do with what they collect from us, and that's just one area.
It tightens the rules around what the general public is allowed to ask to see, and it puts limits on who's allowed to adjudicate these claims. And essentially what's happened is the government now has more power to stamp something as classified or secret and say, sorry, we're not going to let you see this. And there's a lot less option to go to an independent review board to get a second opinion. Now you're going to have to go down to the court, hire a lawyer, pay a lot of money, and fight for a long, long, long time. So to me it's kind of a regressive situation, and a lot of people are upset.
And so now, is there any sort of example that you can give us of something else that would be affected by this sort of thing?
Well,
and I want to just try and get more examples of what's on the go.
Sure. Well, I'll give you a very personal example.
Sure.
Unfortunately, they didn't get a chance to go over Clause 10 because they shut down the debate after Clause 6. But to briefly read it here, the new rule says that a head of a public body may refuse to disclose an applicant personal information that is evaluative or opinionated material to determine the suitability, eligibility, or qualification for employment. So let's suppose I want to go and apply for a job with the government. I go through the process. I go through the interview process. The documentation that is done by the human resources people, they can basically put anything in there they want. We don't want to hire Jennifer because we don't like her. Who knows what they're going to put in there?
Yeah.
And that document can be refused. I can't even go and get access to information about me, which is basically my information. So.
Yeah. Now let's just say for something silly, we don't like your glasses because they have red on them. I mean something silly, something really stupid and silly. Sorry, I didn't mean to say stupid. Something really invalid.
It's a possibility.
You know, and it's a possibility.
You'd like to hope that...
We don't like red glasses.
Yeah. You'd like to hope that the folks that are honorable enough to not do that, but when you eliminate the appeal process, it opens the door. Perception is reality, and right now, I think the bigger issue is people are talking about this Muskrat Falls project. We're talking about a lot of money from the government. It's been set aside in the budget. A lot of other important issues will not be funded, and now the question asks, well, what's really going to go on behind the scenes, behind closed doors? How much information about Muskrat Falls will not be available to the public, and what are the implications of that? People are worried now that we don't know what's going on in those those meetings now, and we don't have a right to understand how it could affect us. We live here, we work here, it's our province too, and it feels like we've lost a sense of control, and I think that's why a lot of people are upset about it.
Yeah, definitely. Like you got to look at it one way, like or the way I've been looking at it actually is a friend of mine, Mr. Andrew Parsons. He represents, I believe it's the Liberal district, Liberals on the West Coast.
Correct.
But he, through his posts, I've been following his posts, and they've been in like a marathon debate for like 3 days or something to try and stop this process. You know, that's not just a couple hours or like, hey, what's next on the agenda? Like, I'm a Toastmaster. I'm actually a very proud president of my Capital Toastmaster group recently, and you go through a lot of procedure, but you wonder where the breakdown is, like something like that, you know?
I think what happened here is usually you have, before bills are tabled in the House, you have review processes, you have committees. Standing committees is a term you've probably heard Jerry Rogers and Lorraine Michael talk about, which we don't seem to have in government, where all political parties sit down and discuss an issue before you even go into the House. This was kind of dropped in the House at the last minute, and no one really knew what was going on. And it's almost like a protest movement of its own to say we are going to debate this. There's 3 readings of a bill. First of all, you've got 37 members of the Conservatives and only 11 in opposition. So the Conservatives can do pretty much what they want with any bill. But they recognize the politically correctness of allowing the other 11 to have a chance to speak to the bill. So after it went through second reading, there's a mandatory committee process. And that's where they said, okay, fine, we're gonna make up for all this lost consultation, and we're gonna have a filibuster committee meeting that's gonna go on and on and on, and we're gonna table amendment after amendment, which they voted down and voted down. Yeah. Basically, it's an opportunity for the opposition to, critique what the government's doing, raise some serious issues, and more importantly, create a sense of public awareness and outcry. So many people don't have a clue about what goes on in government. The actual procedure of how they operate in the House, it's very formal, and the rules of order, people... Robert rules. A lot of people... What the heck's access to information really mean? And it was an opportunity to, I guess, put some tangible examples on the table so the average Joe and Jane and Jennifer can get a sense of how it really affects them as citizens. And it worked. The media jumped all over this story. Thursday night at 1 o'clock in the morning, we had probably 35 people sitting up in the gallery watching this. I took in several hours of the debate myself because I'm a former access and privacy professional, so awesome. Keenly interested to see how this unfolds.
I actually had an exam Wednesday.
Ooh.
And I believe it started Tuesday night.
Oh my goodness.
I think it was the debate. The debate started sitting, and it started getting late through, and I seen the tweet come through, sitting here now, from Andrew sitting here now, debating whatever. And I guess at 1 o'clock, or 12:30 at night, I was actually ready to go down there and check that out. I was, it seemed late, and it just seemed odd to be debating about where my tax dollars go at 1 o'clock at night.
Let alone 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and let alone after that, I can't understand or get answers of what happens to it.
Sure.
Something's, you know what I mean? Something's odd. So now you were down there today.
I was.
And you were amongst one of, probably a couple hundred people, or, and what were some of the issues that were being raised there, like general talk and
we had first of all, we had a variety of prominent members of our community that were there, and this speaks to the importance of the issue. We had politicians there, people representing student unions, non-profit organizations, people of all ages, everything from I guess, people challenging the political process, the lack of consultation, to I guess the broader concept of human rights as it relates to freedom and access to information. Transparency and accountability are two words we often hear about government. And I think the public opinion of governments worldwide is in rough shape right now. People are not trusting their governments. And when we see a piece of legislation come in like this that appears to be regressive rather than progressive, people raise further concern that we feel. That's why so many people don't even get out and vote. They feel it doesn't matter who I vote for. It doesn't
I've
make
heard
a
that
difference.
a million times. I've even been on that side of the fence.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, in some regards, it don't make a difference. If we're going to get hundreds of thousands of people together out to go vote or check off a box, we need to get 4 times that amount to actually get up off their arse and walk up and block the doors physically with their bodies and say, we've had enough of this. We've had enough.
Well, that's definitely part of what this Occupy movement's been all about. Pitching the tents down at City Hall. Those folks were there. They had their pots and pans. One particular lady was very fired up with her comments. And it's all about putting a gentle reminder out there. Sure, there might have only been 100 people, but I know many people who couldn't be here.
Those 100 people have a friend that couldn't make it.
Absolutely.
That's 200 instantly.
We have the eyes and ears of several. I represent a couple of nonprofit organizations, and the tweets are going out.
Who do you represent?
I represent a new group actually called the Transsexual Patient Association, or Newfoundland Patient Association for Transsexual Health.
Cool.
And I'm also involved in some federal-related work for transgender human rights movements. And
I guess you said that's sort of new. What struggles have you been coming up against to sort of have to form that group and to form that alliance against whoever?
And I think part of the issues that I personally face in my community is the trans community. We seem to face a lot of, I guess, regression and even fear. People are afraid to stand up to government because they're not wondering what the implications are. I had a great job there. I came out as a transsexual, and all of a sudden the safe and secure job was over, and I was on the street looking for work. And I went to the healthcare system with problems. And it's an example I raised earlier about not having an independent reviewer. Human Rights Commission does not report to the House. It reports directly to the Justice Minister. So it means basically human rights is more of a political issue than a right, and that opened the door to problems. They said, sorry, we're not going to hear your case here. If you got a problem, go file something in court. And there's a lot of examples about people whose rights are being abused. The healthcare system is probably the best example. It seems every day there's a problem. The folks that lost the weight and couldn't get surgery on their tummy, that was a pretty prominent matter where they wouldn't help those people. We hear all about hospital wait times and people in the emergency rooms.
The mental health situation in this province is one that needs to be revamped real quick to save a lot of people that need to only talk to someone at first and they don't know who to talk to. That's as simple as it is.
I think that's absolutely
as it gets.
Yeah. There's and people
coming from someone who has dealt coming from someone who's dealt with
yes, bye.
Who deals with somewhat of a mental illness. I hate to say it, but you know, I'm kind of ashamed of it at times. I'm just someone who's hyper, but you know that's a mental illness. I'm hyper.
And the sad thing is, how does society react? Transsexualism, I've been saying it's a biological birth defect, but on the books down in the United States, they consider this a mental illness. And what does that do for me when I try to get credibility, when I try to look for work? People are going to say, wait a minute, Jennifer, you're mentally ill. We better not hire you. We better not let you join our social club. Putting words into an act doesn't guarantee...
I think it's more like you're mentally ill because we're trying to take your choice away from you, which is what it is.
And basic things like employment and healthcare, that's a tough situation. If you don't have basic needs in life, what do you have? And getting government to actually listen to my complaints has been it's impossible. They won't listen. I've emailed and tweeted a lot of the government. Said, I'd love to sit down and talk to you so you can have a better understanding. I'll call out right now, Sandy Collins is an MHA, who I believe is the parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Health, and he refused to have a sit-down chat about this. So that's like slamming the door in my face, much like this access to information issue is as well. Sorry, we're not going to give you that information because we say so.
Yeah.
Tough. Just trust us. We're the government. We got voted in, even though we only got 17% of votes, because the real winner of that election was none of the above, because more people did not vote than those who did vote.
Yeah.
And to me, that opens the door for concerns. You got you got such a powerful government.
There's a discrepancy, and that alone should be the control for change.
Yeah, and I'll sit here for a million hours and try to encourage people. I get into people's face. I'm flamboyant. I'm controversial. I've made a lot of enemies in this city, but I get people to take notice of the issues, and that's going to be my goal. I plan to be running. I'm going to put my name on the ballot next year for the city election. And
you know how many times I've said Jay Frost for premier?
Go for it.
And actually meant it. Because it wouldn't be just my province.
Yeah. Some people say, well, protests are kind of silly. You're not going to get anything out of that. None of the government was actually there, but it's going to be on the TV tonight. Yeah. I'm sitting here in a radio studio right now.
Did you see my music video, my protest for it all?
I'm not so sure. I will check that out, folks.
We'll show you that. I will show you that. But we're gonna turn over now to some music, because I think musicians in this town also need to take note of what's going down with this, because it's not just that fight that we need to worry about. It's also the musicians that need to worry about our fight, and the funding cuts.
Absolutely.
And the lack thereof of the importance of art. And art, how it deals with mental illness and the way people deal with their mental illnesses. Like, come on, open your eyes. We're going to get into some music. I'm going to play another song. We're getting situated for something live. We're going to come back after that. I'm your host, Jay Frost, and you're listening to the very free and very liberal sounds of CHMR 93.5. Can't say the liberal station, just like liberal sounds, right?
I thought that was really good.
NDP will be upset, but hey, they're on our side right now.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I'm liberal. I'm just saying. We're all on the same side right now.
For this issue, everyone, we're all on the same table for that.
I'm a little and walking on the rock, looking for some small rocks.
Do you need more of me, or is we good?
My legs or crush my
Yeah, we're gonna say bye after this song.
Talk a little more.
knee when you walk.